Hey everyone, I'm Andrew, this is Philip, we're the Serious Brothers. We have been investing in real estate for over a decade. We have bought hundreds of units and we have never seen a market as hot as this. So we're going to explain why it's so hot.
And fuego.
And fuego, and oh Lord, is it hot.
Okay everyone, so I am here showing my client a home. And I just want you to take a look at all of the people who are lined up to see this property. So when we say that there is a housing crisis, we really mean it. It's absolutely insane. The line goes all the way in the back. It's not even 5:30 fully, and someone stopped me and they wanted to know what was going on in the neighborhood, and I just told them the truth. I said, we're having a housing crisis.
Even just buying a personal residence, every single house that I looked at, and this was just a few months back, was going over asking price. We ended up getting $15,000 over asking price, but they accepted our offer over others because we were willing to close in like 43 days, which was kind of a weird close period, and they needed to line it up exactly with the house they were buying and whatnot. We went over asking $20,000 on one, $40,000 on it. Everyone was over asking. Everyone was highest and best. Every single one of them.
Well, I'm going into buying a house soon too, and I was my wife and I didn't want to have to, fight everybody for every house, have an hour to decide, and so we're getting excited when it started cooling off a little bit during the winter. But everything I'm hearing is it's just like it was last summer and everything like that.
Our aunt tried to buy a house, cash offer. It was in Arizona. I think it was near Phoenix. $100,000 over asking, rejected. I mean, multiple houses, like one in D.C., one in San Jose, have gone over $1 million over asking.
I mean, just in Kansas City where we invest. In 2015, we have the receipts to prove this, so we have to.
Yeah.
We bought over 10 houses in one neighborhood for $16,000.
$16,000.
Today, those same houses are selling for more than $116,000 easily. It's just those numbers don't make sense.
They need a little rehab for sure, but I mean,
that still doesn't really comprehend those changes.
Jackson County, where we are, there's under a month of inventory. Prices increased 14% year over year. This above 7.5% inflation. We have a massive housing shortage, something like 3.8 million units. So I mean, the market is in fuego, as previously stated.
Yes, you know this. So the question is, why is this happening? There's a lot of reasons, and we're going to explain all that.
We're going to do it all.
First one's pretty simple. Dollars aren't worth as much as they used to be.
There's general inflation is going to show up in real estate. It typically does. In the 70s, it did. Inflation and real estate basically trended with each other between 8 and 10%. And you have interest rates that are really low. You have general inflation that is going. So you basically have a starting point. If 7.5% inflation, you should expect real estate to go up at least 7.5%. It's going up double that, and it seems to be even more. And part of that is interest rates should be above inflation.
Yes,
but they're below
that's
inflation.
really weird.
Like our interest rate of my house, personal residence, was 3%. I've heard of them in the 2s. That is ridiculous.
You're basically saving wealth or making wealth, however you want to talk about it, by just having a loan at less than inflation, which is a really weird dynamic.
It's an extremely weird dynamic. Our investment loans are in the 4s, and it's like, so you have, inflation is going to set that bottom, generally speaking. Obviously, real estate could be above or below that. But because interest rates are so low, and almost everyone buys real estate with a loan. Investors usually use loans. Homeowners almost always use loans. And so whenever interest rates are low, they are going to push excess money toward real estate and away from consumer goods or even stocks. I mean, because you can buy a stock with cash and you can't get the kind of margin, you can't borrow as much to buy stocks as you can with real estate. So low interest rates, high inflation.
And people buy it based off housing, based off of cash flow and what kind of loan they get off their cash flow. And if your interest rates are lower, you can afford a bigger amount because your monthly payments are lower. So people are like, well, I can pay more, so I'm going to pay more to get the house I want. And it's just lower interest rates make houses more expensive.
And remember, in the 70s, when we had inflation like this before, interest rates were never this low.
Yeah.
Eventually Volcker just raised them through the ceiling, and you had interest rates of like 15%. But even during the 70s, when inflation was really bad, before they decided to break inflation's back, interest rates were still 6, 7, 8%.
So you can never beat supply and demand. This is the demand side of things. People want more houses because they have more money, so there's more demand for it.
There's more population.
Exactly.
Population hasn't stopped growing. both in terms of immigration and in terms of people just having kids. The United States population has increased every year,
which is going to make more people want houses. On top of that, it's not just you can have the same amount of people and the same amount of houses, but I don't have the data necessarily about this, but my feeling is there's more households now. There's less families that are together. Divorce rates are higher. I'm guessing with the pandemic, a lot of 21-year-olds who are living with their parents kind of got sick of it after a while. They go, you know what? I really want my own spot.
Your feels is that other people's feels was that they need to.
I'm guessing there's less people living in the same house today than in the past.
I mean, I think it's starting to move back because of affordability issues. You need to rent out that bedroom. You need to buy a smaller house or whatever. You generally have less people getting married. You have at least a high rate of divorce. Have
more overall households.
More people living by themselves. I mean, this is a general long-term trend that started in like the late '60s, and so
it's going to make demand higher. Yeah, it's more people, more money. Demand is going up, but there's another side to this supply-demand equation that's causing the prices to keep going up. And it's supply, obviously. What's going on with supply?
As I stated earlier, there's a 3.8 million unit housing shortage in the United States by some estimates. And this really goes back to the 2008 crash. It's almost like this skyrocketing series of prices we have comes from something that happened 13 years ago.
Real estate moves slow in some ways.
Before the 2008 crash, real estate, there was about 1 million housing starts every year up until about 2005, and then it got up to 2 million. And so there's always this very large number of houses being built. Too many.
Yeah.
And in 2008,
we figured that out in 2008.
Empty subdivisions just stretching as far as the eye could see. I remember going, we looked at a house for sale back when I lived in Eugene, Oregon, in this subdivision in Bethel, Dynamo, and went through the subdivision, there's one house there, they're looking to sell it, and it's the only house where anybody lived. Everyone else was vacant. And it's just you can't, there's no market here. You can't sell this. And so, it's nothing we could do there. But now it's the exact opposite problem. And it comes from population and continuing to increase. Some of those population dynamics we discussed. And not enough building. Building basically collapsed to nothing after the 2008 crash. We've known some people who had developments that were midway through. And even before they defaulted on their payments, the bank just took it back. We're not doing this. We're calling your loan due. Every year up until 2020, there were less than 1 million housing starts, and something happened in 2020. You may have heard of it.
I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing happened in 2020.
Some
construction got slowed down like everything else.
Construction basically, house building basically got a respiratory illness. They got COVID and so you finally got over 1 million, and then housing, it's just everything gets put back 6 months, 12 months, because it wasn't just the first lockdown. It was a series of lockdowns and a series of people getting sick.
And when things are unpredictable, you can't build housing in a day and sell it in a day. You got to make an investment, something that's supposed to pay off down the road.
It pushed everything back.
Unpredictability makes it so you don't want to make that investment.
And then you had you've had the labor shortage, you've had the lumber crisis, you've had the Ukraine thing, you have all these things pushing these projects further and further and further back. Now we have all these supply shortages. You have the supply crisis. We've trying to order some parts for electrical, and it's 20 weeks out, and it's geez. All that stuff is being felt in construction. They have finally got over 1 million starts again, but
it's not. I mean, they're trying to catch up from way behind.
There's a lag. So, construction's a lag.
You can't build a house in a day.
You can't. You
can't start a construction company in a day.
Rome may have been burnt in a day, and but the housing market cannot be. You can't be built back in a day. And our current housing market.
Fire even lasted a little longer than.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. But it's it's going to take a substantial amount of time.
Yes.
For supply and demand to equalize, especially as the population continues to grow. Now, there's to be some dynamics, population dynamics will work in reverse. People are going to be living with roommates. People are going to be Airbnb there,
people
renting out their
life and
bedroom,
stuff. People are finding unique solutions to this problem.
There are going to be dynamics working in the other direction as things have gotten and become more so unaffordable. But at the same time, it is going to take a substantial amount of time for that lag, that discrepancy between supply and demand to equalize. And it is, supply and demand is undefeated, and that in the end you can talk. There's inflation, there's low interest rates, they're pushing. There's all of these. There's a lot of government subsidies for housing. There's all of these things,
Yeah.
but in the end, it really comes down to supply and demand. And
well, and a lot of people think so. This is unsustainable. These prices are going up at rates that
'08 is
you
coming
can't.
back.
Yeah, you can't handle because it's tulip mania. People are getting more into buying. It's going crazy. It can't hold. But if you subscribe and watch our next video, we're gonna tell you why it's not gonna crash like that.
Technically, they don't need to subscribe, but they should. You should.
Sure.
And watch the video.
Yeah.